In 2001, beloved actor Bill Paxton already had classic roles in legendary films like Aliens and Tombstone in his rearview mirror. A man known by audiences as one of the best character actors to ever grace a screen. But also an actor who could take any situation, no matter how outlandish, and ground it in reality, because he had the aura of the everyday man, a dude's dude, known by some in the plain lands as the Extreme.
It's the Extreme!
Or by others as the sleazy car salesman who tried to bang Arnold's wife.
I'm not a spy. I'm nothing. I'm naval and...
It was at this point in his career that Paxton came across a role so nuanced that he knew there was only one way to handle it correctly. So he would, for the first time in his career, have to direct the feature film himself.
You're going to Hollywood!
Hollywood?
Paxton was about to use that lovable regular Joe persona and put us all at ease before hacking us up into tiny little bits and burying us in the rose garden, you know, for Jesus. Because this is what happened to Frailty.
God will protect me.
Like most memorable originals, Frailty started with a great script. As producer David Kirshner, whose credits include Child's Play and Hocus Pocus, explains it, writer Brent Hanley's life wasn't going hot at the time. Kirshner said they were living in Tyler, Texas, which is where the story takes place. He turned to his wife, Faith, which sounds like it's something from the movie, and said, "Baby, we gotta get out of here or we're going to die." And so they did. Hanley and his wife moved to Boston. He joined the writing program at Emory, where Frailty was born, a title that on the surface had absolutely nothing to do with the movie, yet everything all at the same time. The film is known as a horror thriller mystery involving a simple God-fearing man, known only in the film as Dad, and his two young boys, Fenton and Adam. They all live out a peaceful small-town Texas existence until one night it instantly comes crashing down. Dad wakes them up and tells them that he's been visited by an angel. The angel has told him that they have been chosen by God to be demon destroyers.
I wanted to wait to tell you until once I had a chance to figure it out myself. But the angel said I had to do it now.
The angel would send them weapons and a list of demons to be destroyed. A list that, to Fenton's horror, was made up of human names. The script is very loosely based on serial killer Joseph Callinger, who had gone on a crime spree in 1974 with his 12-year-old son. Callinger claimed that after he was caught that God had told him to commit the crimes. It's worth noting that the court didn't believe him, charged him as sane, and sentenced him to a life in prison. He died in prison of heart failure after spending the last 11 years of his life on suicide watch.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
All parties would agree that Frailty was a great script. The problem is that it's a great script about children being involved with axe murders under the direction of God. It was going to take someone with more marbles than Pedro Serrano to get any studio on board, considering that awful subject matter. Kirshner ended up having to have LAPD protection provided to his home where his two daughters lived. This was after receiving death threats from a Christian organization that threatened to put a bullet in his head, all before the film had even been released. Still, Kirshner pushed on and had Bill Paxton over for lunch one day, eyeing him for the role of Dad. He had wanted someone with a dude type of personality, whom people had already had an attachment to, a Tom Hanks type character. Well, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone much more relatable than Bill fucking Paxton. Paxton arrived at his home and expressed interest in the role, but was curious about the director. He correctly had concerns about being typecast, using Anthony Perkins and Psycho as an example. Paxton asked Kirshner if he could direct the film himself. Per Kirshner, "I'm smiling and shaking my head, but inside I'm thinking, oh shit, what do I do now?" Paxton, also an impressive artist, then wowed Kirshner by pulling out some storyboards that he had made of important moments from the film, down to the palette colors that he'd envisioned. Kirshner was blown away. Lionsgate never fought the idea, and the rest is history. The group would move on to cast Matthew McConaughey in the role of grown-up Adam. Spoilers. a role that he says is what landed him his career-altering role in Dallas Buyers Club, for which he won an Academy Award, an award he had been snubbed for years earlier in his career when he had played redneck Patrick Bateman on meth in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Clearly, the Academy lacks taste. McConaughey spends his time in Frailty two-handing with the great Powers Booth as FBI agent Wesley Doyle. Booth is perfectly cast as a skeptical FBI agent, who Adam unburdens his story to. We'll later find out, bigger spoilers, that he's also a psychopath who had previously murdered his sweet old mother while she hung laundry. Paxton had become friends with Booth during the filming of Tombstone and said, "When I read this script, I immediately thought of him as kind of the iconic FBI guy." If you enjoyed Powers Booth here, and I know you did, check out his best Hans Gruber impersonation in Jean-Claude Van Damme's Sudden Death. It's just a certain mix of matter-of-factness and judgment of others that no one can pull off quite like Powers fucking Booth. Matthew O'Leary and Jeremy Sumpter were cast as the young brothers and were each exceptional, especially given the wide range of emotions that they were each asked to display. The younger Adam was almost creepy in the way that he so strongly believed in what his father was telling him.
I'm ready to fulfill my destiny.
I'm proud of you, son.
The younger Fenton portrayed intense inner rage watching his world crumble at the hands of the father that he once trusted. In a film that features a man murdering what he believes are demons with an axe, the true fright of Frailty is watching a good dad turn evil overnight. Or does he? One of the most fascinating parts of watching Frailty for the first time is wondering if the dad is A, full of shit and evil as hell, B, utterly insane, or C, telling the truth. He's not murdering humans, he's destroying demons under the direction of an angel. Paxton and Frailty brilliantly toy with us throughout. Sure, we see him communicate with a shockingly haunting, weird-looking angel from under a car engine at work, but we also see him looking silly as hell, gawking at a tailpipe while sparks fly all around his face. Nothing is revealed to us until the final act of the film, keeping us on our toes and in suspense. This idea came from an unlikely place, director James Cameron. Paxton had his old-time friend Cameron come by the editing bay and give his thoughts on what they'd accomplished so far. Cameron loved the film, but tried to explain to them that he would move some scenes around to make the story a bit murkier for the audience. They weren't clear on what he meant when he said, as Kirshner tells it, "Can I just show you?" And boom, this guy is so brilliant and he does everything, and he puts it together and we look at it and it changed the entire film. As Bill said, that's why he's James Cameron. Pretty rad. Another one of those moments that make you wonder if Dad is just a nutbar crazy is when he finds an axe in a barn with the word Otis inscribed on it. As Dad is driving home one day, he notices the sunlight breaking through the clouds and onto a random barn. He pulls over and realizes that the light is shining through the barn and onto the inscribed axe. This must be one of the weapons the angel had promised to send him. But why does the axe say Otis? The film never explains. Another theory is that it stands for "Only the Innocent Survive." Makes sense, but leave it to Bill Paxton for the truth to be even cooler. Truth is, Paxton had come across a homeless man named Otis, whom he was fascinated by. He offered the man some money, but he didn't want to accept charity, so Paxton asked if he could pay him to use his name in a movie. His name was Otis. It's about as touching a story as you're going to get about how an axe used to dismember demons and humans alike got its name. And just one more reason that Paxton was one of a kind. Frailty was released in April of 2002 in a relatively favorable spot. The only opening competition was the Ben Affleck thriller Changing Lanes and Cameron Diaz rom-com The Sweetest Thing. Still, the $11 million budget accrued a $4 million opening and a $17 million haul overall. By no means a box office bomb, but the returns simply don't reflect the quality of the film. According to Kirshner, if he had one wish, it'd be to really have a marketing of the film, because Lionsgate said to me that we just weren't ready for this kind of film. And of course, Frailty had come before their great run with the Saw franchise. Kirshner mentioned that he thought they did a great job on the poster and trailers, but that the film just wasn't quite out there enough. Still, Kirshner also praised Lionsgate on the entire process of making Frailty. He said that he had thought something was wrong because the studio never came to set, but they responded that they'd been watching the dailies and enjoying everything they saw, so they saw no need to interfere. That's some shit you don't hear every day from a studio. Even the Suits enjoyed Frailty, folks. Though it may not have made the dent in the popular horror zeitgeist of the time, Frailty's impact on the genre is undeniable, a go-to recommendation by seasoned horror fans, or when brought up by someone who has also seen it, usually culminates in a "Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo, high five" moment. This is a coveted, damn near universally loved horror film. Critics and audiences agree with fresh ratings across both scores on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as universal acclaim from audiences on Metacritic. For a movie with themes that aren't marketable to the general audience, that didn't necessarily lose money, and had generally favorable reviews, one would have thought we'd see much more writing from Brent Hadley, and for that matter, more directing from Bill Paxton. But that sadly wasn't the case. Paxton would go on to only direct one more feature film, before his far too soon passing in 2017, 2005's The Greatest Game Ever Played, about the 1913 US Open, which also received favorable reviews. According to Kirshner, everyone in Hollywood raved about Frailty, and even Steven Spielberg wanted to meet with writer Brent Hadley. Yet for some reason, unbeknownst to us, Hadley was never credited with another feature film again. I mean, at least to this date. Here's hoping for the future. For now, we'll have to consider that one an unsolved mystery. Hadley and company crafted a horror movie that had it all. Characters that you care about, a creepy atmosphere, a tightly written twist ending, heartfelt acting, and a great story. It's the perfect movie recommendation this Halloween season for any horror fans you know who have not been down this journey yet. And that, my friends, is what happened to Frailty.
God will